They put shit on there that I don't even know why they put it fucking on there. They're talking about shit that has nothing to do with you, and you have to look at it and go, what's this got to do with me? If I hear about the January 6th fucking thing one more time, what the fuck, guys? What the fuck? You know, they're comparing, I even saw comparisons of Dana White to Will Smith. Like a year later. Like, Jesus Christ, like, don't you have anything better to do than to think about what happened a year ago with Will Smith? Now they're trying to bring that fucking smack back in comparison. It was just a bad fucking New Year's Eve for a lot of people. Look at the other UFC fighter, Phil Baroni. Fucking killed his girlfriend in Mexico. That guy's gonna rot under the fucking jail in Mexico. You know, again, we weren't there. We don't know what happened. It was an argument. She cheated on him and told him on vacation. Why would you tell a fucking guy that's crazy that you cheated on him on vacation? He slammed her in the shower, whatever the fuck happened, you know. I didn't read the whole thing, just somebody was telling me the other day. And I think the most disturbing thing that is on everybody's mind is the D'Elia thing. Guys, he's a friend. I have not been around that crew in 2.5 years. You know, I did not know what happened. I was not on that tour. I'm just hearing about documentary and I'm hearing about tour fucking managers and girls and, you know, guys, I got a 10-year-old. I don't know what the fuck to tell you anymore. When I was leaving LA, I was leaving in LA not to move, but I did it to shut a chapter in my life and move on to a next chapter. What I saw before I left, and it wasn't anything to do with sex or girls, it was just a common attitude and what had happened to comedians in general, that I knew this wasn't going to get any better. It wasn't the pandemic, it wasn't Netflix, it wasn't anything. It was just things had changed in the world of comedy. When I moved to Los Angeles, a comedian, you know, toured 20 weeks. He shot a show 20 weeks, and he lived his life the other 20 weeks. You toured around Los Angeles, you did the improvs, you did, well, back before I started, you did Igby's and the Ice House and all these other things. And then the game changed. The game changed, and it was more about, it wasn't about the brick wall and the microphone no more. It was about 200, 300-seat clubs and 400-seat clubs and 600-seat clubs and 700-seat clubs, and people trying to exploit it from everywhere they could. And I understand things grow. Things are supposed to fucking evolve. But it wasn't about the quality anymore. I mean, people shoot specials every fucking year, and as a comic and as a comedy fan and as a comedy fucking whatever the fuck you might want to call me, anybody knows. That's why I love the white dude that used to Anthony Jeselnik. I'm a big fan of Anthony Jeselnik because Anthony Jeselnik will run a material in a comedy club for a year. Then he moves on to a theater for a year. Then he shoots a special. He's not worried about that check. Most people would take, in 3 years, would shoot 2 specials. Anthony Jeselnik cares. He shoots 1 special, and for that I applaud him. But what I'm talking about here, it just wasn't about me at the Comedy Store getting my dick sucked in 1997. It became something bigger than that on all fronts. You know, the podcast scene came in. That blew up people, you know. I benefited a lot from the podcast scene because it went right back to where I'm, one of my strong points, which is fucking storytelling, you know. So you get on these fucking podcasts, you tell stories. It's the pathway to fucking, people really admiring you for whatever the fuck you do, whatever stupid stories I said. You know, we add the podcast to that. Listen, guys, let's be honest. If you work the road like any of these guys, you have enough money. That's a great comedy living. You add a podcast to it, it becomes even a greater podcast living. Now you say to yourself, how can I balance all this? How can I balance all this? How can I balance the comedy, the podcasting, the writing, the lifting, my family, my wife. How can I balance all this? And if you really want it, like I did 2 podcasts a week, and I did every other weekend on the road, okay? When I say every other weekend, it's 4 fucking shows a weekend, 2 in one theater, 2 in another theater, and you're out there fucking banging it every week regardless. And now, remember, the weeks I'm off, the weeks I'm not on the road, doesn't mean I'm home fanning my balls with some guy feeding me fucking coconut chips. No, I'm doing Tuesday at the store, not 1 show, 2 shows. Thursday at the show, 2 shows, maybe even 3. An original room, a belly room, a main room, and maybe a 10 o'clock main room. I wouldn't go out on Fridays. Fridays is for my family. And I went out on fucking Saturday nights to the Ice House, the store. I did the 9:30 spot, and whatever anybody else called me with. People always call you with something. Hey, I got this room. This guy canceled. Can you stop by and do 10 minutes? So I was always fucking moving. After a while, you're like, okay, what needs to be done here? Okay, I'm not seeing my wife enough. She's bitching. I'm not seeing my daughter enough. She's bitching. I've gained 13 pounds. I'm not working out. But my bank account is okay. And I'm having fun on the podcast. I'm doing all these things, but you look and you see what's my income and what's it causing to my family. I mean, what's the damage doing to me? I'm a big fucking reader, and I'm excited about 2023 because I started reading again. I lost a little contact by not being on the road and on planes. I stopped reading. I love reading on a plane. There's nothing better than, I love preparing to fucking read, like getting in a corner and smoking a bong hit and maybe getting a fucking Coke Zero and putting ice cubes in it and knowing I'm not going to move for an hour and a half. If I move, it's to fucking take 3 more hits off that fucking joint. That's the only reason I'm moving, You get so enthused about reading, and I read for years. I read about rock bands, from Guns N' Roses to Aerosmith to fucking, and when they got Nirvana, and when they got off the road, basically they hated each other. They hated each other. And then they went away for a year and wrote and played with the kid and smoked some different dope. And then they came back and they all loved each other again. And they were creatively ready to pursue the next album. It's great to read books about rock stars. And like, we all have, Mike likes Nirvana. But if I pull Mike aside, I'll go, any Nirvana album you didn't like, Mike? And he'll go, well, this one album had this, or whatever didn't have. And then years later, you read about it, and you'll read how the record label was forcing them to make that album, or they were fucking going at them for not putting, like, they want a ballad. The only reason why we made that stupid song is because the record label kept asking for a fucking ballad. We don't do fucking ballads,